Doctor Who rebooted 20 years ago this year, and back in 2005 when I was just a sprightly young child, it was my dad who introduced me to this little old sci-fi show. Now, 5-year-old me had no idea about the history of the show or really what was going on at all, but I remember frequently hiding behind the sofa on a Saturday night with the rest of my family, and even now, 20 years on, I still do the same, and I absolutely love this show. I didn't realise as a kid how much of an impact this show would have on me and how emotionally attached I would get to its characters. I have watched and rewatched this show and its episode so many times. There are certain episodes I can recite word for word. And whilst I do still absolutely love this show, it's fair to say it has been on a downward trajectory for many years. But it's the older episodes, even to this day, that I still love to go back and watch. And with 2025 marking the 20-year anniversary since the reboot of the show, and since the reintroduction of Billie Piper recently at the end of the New Who Series 2, I decided that now is the best time to go back and review the very first series of the reboot from 2005. And let me tell you, it is still absolutely fantastic.
Absolutely fantastic.
So in this video, I'm going to be reviewing the plot of each episode in a reasonable amount of detail, and I'm going to be popping them in a tier list because it's 2025 and everybody loves a tier list. So I'm going to be basing our rankings on a few different things such as the storyline, the character development, and also just the impact that the episode had when I first watched it, and now going back to rewatch it 20 years on. So this is, of course, going to be subjective, and, you know, this is my opinion, so please be prepared to argue down in the comments because I'm sure everyone is going to have their own opinion. I'm a huge fan of this TV show, and I've been wanting to do some sort of video on this show for quite a while. So we're going to be diving straight into the first episode of Series 1, which, of course, is Rose. This episode is great. It's a brilliant introduction to the new characters, and we have a great storyline and a great reintroduction to an old alien in the Nestene consciousness. Christopher Eccleston is great as the Doctor from minute one, and we get a hint of the Doctor's history without just exposition dumping on us. Billie Piper is absolutely fantastic as the companion, and there is a reason why so many people see her as the absolute GOAT.
That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
And we also have fantastic world building from RTD, with characters such as Mickey and Jackie who are actually likeable, and we grow to care about them, unlike the characters in later series like these two Muppets. So the episode originally aired in March of 2005, and we begin with a rapid introduction to Rose Tyler, who's just a regular 19-year-old girl living in London with her mum, waking up, heading to her work, and meeting her boyfriend Mickey. And one of the things I love about this so much is it's just relatable to so many people, and I think that's why so many people grew to love Rose, because we see her character development from just this regular teenage girl to who she becomes by the later series. So a really strong introduction. And of course, when she's at work, she's in the basement of the shop and she discovers the mannequins are moving. And of course, we get our introduction to the Doctor. That classic leather jacket, man, is so iconic. And he's got one of the most iconic lines as his first introduction: "Run."
Run.
I love how the introduction to the Doctor is really sort of brisk and he just blows up the building. We get our first RTD explosion about 5 minutes in, saves Rose, casually drops that he's the Doctor, and then just dips and he's gone just like that. Rose is left with the severed mannequin arm, which of course becomes quite important a couple of scenes later. But yeah, nice introduction to the Doctor, but I love how this episode actually focuses more on Rose than the Doctor, even though it's Doctor Who and it's the reintroduction. So when the Doctor and Rose meet up again at her flat, we get this hilarious scene with Jackie trying to get off with the Doctor, and his reaction to it is just absolutely hilarious.
No.
Jackie's such a little horn dog for any bloke that comes into her life. So Rose goes back home and begins to research online about the Doctor. Some of her searches are questionable, like when she just searches the Doctor, I think it is. literally Google would just bring up your local GP. That's not going to work, hun. So she then goes to meet Frank Hathaway, who tells her that the Doctor keeps appearing through history, and it's a nice way to kind of tell the audience about the history of the show and the character without just exposition dumping on us. It actually fits into the storyline, which is something we don't see a lot of later on in the show, especially when RTD is not the showrunner. So it's a nice way that it's sort of woven into the storyline.
He's safe. He's got a wife and kids.
Yeah, who told you that? He did.
Meanwhile, Mickey gets unalived by this terrible CGI bin, and it does look awful. I'm not going to dig out the CGI because it was 20 years ago and most of us were watching on box TVs, but it's so funny, man. It looks awful, and the little burp from the wheelie bin at the end always gets a chuckle out of me. So whilst Rose is out with Mickey, or doppelganger Mickey, we get this fantastic scene of sugar, sugar, darling, babe.
Sweetheart, babe.
Darling.
Sugar. Babe, sugar.
And the Doctor comes in and saves Mickey by pulling his head off, which, again, it doesn't look great, but I'm not going to criticize it. The Doctor kind of shows Rose the TARDIS and explains a little bit more about who he is, which, again, I do like. It's not just exposition dumping, it's actually woven into the story. And it does also get a chuckle from me when Mickey's head starts melting.
And now you're just gonna let him melt?
No.
Again, we get more sort of introduction to the show as we see the Doctor showing Rose how the TARDIS works as they travel across London. We get this fantastic joke from Rose about the breast implants.
The shop with no dummies, the phones, the wires, the cables.
The breast implants.
And he's looking for the big metal dish. We get another iconic scene between Rose and Christopher Eccleston.
Fantastic.
And again, I think the relationship between these two is really kind of undervalued. Of course, Rose and Ten are the ones that, you know, they fall in love. It's the main love interest, the main story. But honestly, Rose and Eccleston, they've got such an underrated sort of dynamic between them. And I really like it in this first series. I really wish we'd seen more of the two together. The Doctor finally realizes that the London Eye is the transmitter, and he confronts the Nestine consciousness in the little kind of underground base. Again, looks awesome. Even in 2005, it looks really good. We get the big kind of drama, the big ending to the episode, the final showdown, where the Nestine consciousness bring all the mannequins, the Autons, to life. But for some reason, they take absolutely ages to try and unalive Jackie, because she's going to become an important character later on. I think we get a really nice scene where the Doctor tries to reason with the Nestine consciousness, and even though the 9th Doctor's incarnation is meant to be kind of fresh from the Time War, we still see him try and come up with a resolution that doesn't involve killing the Nestine consciousness. At first, he tries to negotiate with them, and of course it doesn't work, and Rose has to step in, using her gymnastics, swinging from the chain to knock the anti-plastic into the vat of the Nestine consciousness, which kills them. All the Autons collapse and the threat is neutralized. For me, it's a great first episode. We get introduced to the characters, and we see straight from the off that Rose is not this sort of damsel in distress kind of character. She is going to be the kind of companion that steps in, steps up, and that is really prevalent come at the end of the series as well. And when all's said and done,
you're tidy.
and they save the day, and the Doctor offers Rose to come with him on the TARDIS. Mickey, again, I love his character development. He's like all scared and whimpering, and we see him later on in a couple of seasons' time, at the end of season 2, the end of season 4, where he's kind of grown as a character. But Mickey's not having it, and at first Rose does say no to travelling with the Doctor, and then he flies off, and you think, oh no, we've been introduced to this character, what's going on? And then he flies back, drops it also travels in time, and she just runs straight for the TARDIS doors.
By the way, did I mention it also travels in time?
Thanks.
Thanks for what?
Exactly.
It's such a good ending to the first episode. For me, Rose is a fantastic reboot, a great reintroduction to this show that fans had been waiting such a long time to start again. We get a little bit of nostalgia bait linking back to the original series, but also it's got its own spin on it. It's got relatable characters. Christopher Eccleston is fantastic as the Doctor. And Billie Piper, again, just a brilliant performance as Rose. And the first episode leaves you wanting more, which is exactly what you want. Russell T Davies did a fantastic job with the writing and understanding what would make people interested in the show. And for me, I'm putting this in great. It's not quite perfect. It's not the greatest episode in terms of the story, but in terms of the reboot, it is brilliant. It's going in great. The end of the world. Now, this episode has some great character designs. It has an amazing soundtrack. And RTD does a great job of world building, which is all relevant later on in the series. And although this is quite a serious episode, it does have some of the most amazing comedy in the whole of series 1.
I can't open the door. Stay there. Don't move.
Where am I gonna go? Ipswich!
Again, we get more lovely dialogue between the Doctor and Rose, just finding out a little bit more about them, building on the characters and their relationship as well. And I really do like in this early series that it's all sort of woven into the storyline, and it's not just pointless exposition like we get later on. So I love how the events of this episode follow straight on from the first episode, Rose, and it's a bit of a strange place for the Doctor to take Rose. I will admit I find it a little bit weird.
So the year 5 billion, the sun expands, the earth gets roasted.
That was our first date.
We had chips.
But the TARDIS materializes on Platform 1, which is a space station orbiting the Earth, and it's a big VIP party to watch the final moments of the Earth, and it's all organized by the Face of Bo. As I've mentioned, the characters and the world building in this episode are fantastic. Lovely scenes with the Doctor and Rose just having a chat, and again, I've mentioned this a lot, but we don't get these scenes as much later on. It's just exposition dumping. We're not getting that character development, the relationship building like we do in these episodes in series 1. It's just so nice to see, and it actually makes you grow to love the characters rather than just being told that the Doctor and the companion are best friends. But one of the really showy off moments of this episode is the array of aliens that they designed for this episode. So we've got the tree people who the Doctor gets a little bit too flirty with, in my opinion.
Nicely, Anna.
Not supposed to show them in public.
Don't worry, I won't tell anybody.
We've got the Mox of Balhoun, who's just, I love him. He's just a little tiny blue blob. Love him. We have the adherents of the repeated meme, LOL meme, insert meme here. And of course, Lady Cassandra, who is the bitchy trampoline, the self-proclaimed last human.
Better to die than live like you, a bitchy trampoline.
Again, another fantastic character that will continue to make appearances through the RTD era. So everything's a little bit overwhelming for Rose, and she decides to take herself off for a moment. She gets chatting to Ruffalo, the Blue Lady, and has a little bit of a realization about exactly what's going on, and the fact she doesn't know the Doctor. She's just run off with him. And then 2 minutes later, the Blue Lady Ruffalo gets unalived. R.I.P. We get another all-timer scene with Rose talking to the plant, which still gets a chuckle from me 20 years on.
Hello. My name's Rose. That's a sort of plant. Talking to a twig.
The Doctor and Rose have a bit of a lover's tiff.
What sort of alien are you? Where are you from? Tell me who you are.
This is who I am, right here, right now, all right?
But all is good when the Doc gives Rose a little phone upgrade, and she gets to call her mum from 5 billion years in the future, which is also called back in season 1 of RTD2 when the Doctor and Ruby do this when they're on the space station in Space Baby. So it's a nice little callback to the second episode of the New Who era. So the tension really ramps up when the steward gets unalived in a scene that I don't love, with the sun filter coming down, and the Mox of Balhoun gives us our first Bad Wolf Easter egg. Wink wink, nudge nudge.
Indubitably, this is the Bad Wolf scenario.
The Doctor suspects foul play and begins investigating, and he discovers that all of the systems on the platform have been sabotaged, and he realizes someone is deliberately out to destroy Platform 1. We have another hilarious scene here with the tree lady calling Rose a prostitute, and her response is also fantastic.
Well, she's not my wife.
Partner?
No.
Concubine?
Nope.
Prostitute?
Whatever I am, it must be invisible. Do you mind? Tell you what, you two go and pollinate. I'm gonna catch up with the family. Quick word with Michael Jackson.
So the Doctor works out that it is Cassandra who was behind the sabotage and that her motive was purely profit. She had shares in all of the guest competitors and would have inherited a fortune when they died. So with the platform safety failing and the sun expanding, the Doctor has to manually reset the shields. So he and the tree lady make their way through like the inner maintenance corridors. But with the safety systems down and the heat intensifying, Jabe, the tree lady, RIP, she sacrifices herself to buy him some more time. We get another moment of tension when Rose is trapped in the room with the force field lowering and the Doctor keeps coming up and down, up and down. It's a bit of a pantomime scene, but he does manage to reset the controls and he manages to save everyone. So with everyone saved, we see the true fury of the Ninth Doctor as he teleports Cassandra back to Platform 1, and without her little moisturizer servants, she begins to crack and shrivel and her skin completely dries out and she cracks into 100 pieces, claiming, "I'm too young to die." And the Doctor's response is just the coldest line of 2005.
Everything has its time and everything dies.
So with everyone saved, Cassandra is dead. Ha, wink wink, nudge nudge, of course she is. The Doctor takes Rose back to the 21st century London and we get this absolutely fantastic quote from Christopher Eccleston. I love it.
You think it'll last forever? People and cars and concrete, but it won't.
I have to say, on a whole, I don't love this episode as much as Rose. I think the resolution is a little bit far-fetched with the eco-glass just repairing, even though the whole satellite was defenseless. But I do like the final scene with the Doctor bringing Cassandra back. It's pretty savage, but it does also show the more ruthless side of the Ninth Doctor. I do really enjoy this episode, and I think it has a lot of rewatchability. I've seen it many, many times. We have some fantastic comedic moments, and the soundtrack is absolutely fantastic as well. I think Christopher Eccleston and Billie Piper really bring this episode alive with their performances, and I do like the scene right at the end where we learn more about the Doctor's background and a little bit regarding Gallifrey. And I think the episode ends on a lovely note showing the depth of the characters and the relationship building between the two.
I'm the last of the Time Lords.
Who's me?
Yeah.
I want chips.
Me too.
Right then, before you get me back in that box, chips it is and you can pay.
It's certainly not as strong as some of the other episodes in this series, but I don't think it's awful. So with all that in mind, I am going to put this episode in good. The Unquiet Dead. This is the first episode of the reboot era where Rose and the Doctor travel back in time, and it's the first episode written by Mark Gatiss. Yay! We have ghosts, we have fake Gwen Cooper, and we have the big man himself, Charles Dickensian. With this episode, I really remember enjoying it as a kid, probably due to the fact that I was 5 years old and thought Ghost coming back to life was pretty awesome. However, rewatching this episode many times as an adult, I've come to realise that it's not as good as I remember it being. The setting is great and the atmosphere of the episode is pretty spooky, but to be honest, the episode itself is pretty boring. I do love the cold opening with Mr. Sneed and the ghost coming back to life. It is pretty fucking creepy. But as the episode goes on, there isn't really much of a threat. We do continue to see some great character building and the relationship between the Doctor and Rose continuing to be built on and to blossom. But the story about the Gelth trying to get through the portal, personally, I just find pretty plain boring. Again, like in the previous stories, this episode has lots of great scenes at the beginning of the Doctor and Rose just chatting away on the TARDIS, which, as I've said, I absolutely love and we just don't get enough of anymore. It's not just timey-wimey, over-the-top chatter, trying to be overly clever and somebody's out to kill me, somebody wants me dead. And this is exactly what made the show so great in the reboot era. Just the characters on the TARDIS exploring through time and space.
Off we go!
Into time!
and space!
I do like this scene with the Doctor and Charles in the coach. It's absolutely brilliant, and it just embodies the Ninth Doctor entirely.
I told you, I'm your number one fan.
There is this strange scene, though, where the ghosts seem more like zombies, which does make me chuckle, but yeah, I just can't take them seriously. And the scene with Rose telling Mr. Sneed to piss off is also very funny.
And don't think I didn't feel your hands up in a quick wonder, you dirty old man.
We also get to see not Gwen Cooper, also known as Gwyneth, in this episode, which as a fan of the expanded universe I do love to see, especially as we get a nod to it in a later episode when the Doctor is introduced to the real Gwen.
Tell me, Gwen Cooper, are you from an old Cardiff family?
Yes, all the way back to the 1800s.
I thought so. Spatial genetic multiplicity, yeah. It's a funny old world.
And whilst Rose and Gwen are chatting, we get our second Bad Wolf Easter egg.
The things you see, the darkness, the big bad wolf.
All interlinking this series, and it's so clever. And again, it's just a lovely scene of the two characters chatting away without it being all blah blah blah, time and space, over the top exposition. In one of the better scenes in the episode, we see the Doctor and Gwyneth hosting a seance with Charles Dickens watching, and he slowly realises that what he's witnessing is a story that he would have written. And the performance from the actor who plays Dickens is actually pretty good.
I can't take part in this. Humbug. Nothing but luminous tambourines and a squeeze box concealed between the knees.
I love a happy medium.
I can't believe you just said that.
In terms of the storyline of this episode, again, for me, it's just pretty boring. The Gelth want to come through the rift, and they're asking for access to the dead bodies within the funeral home. And the Doctor's all for it. And I think one of the reasons for this is it sort of plays on the emotions of the Ninth Doctor, as the Gelth are sort of framed as like war refugees, and the Doctor wants to help them because he's still reeling from the Time War. And I've said a few times throughout this video already, but the Ninth Doctor's incarnation is fresh from the Time War. He's still reeling for the loss of his species, and he wants to help the Gelth, which is why he's so adamant that he wants to allow this to happen, whereas Rhodes is a little bit more against it. And in the plot twist of this episode, the cheeky little Gelth gaslight... See what I did there? Gaslight Gwen to open up the rift, and Rose has a bit of a problem with this, as I've just said. The Doctor convinces Gwen to open up the rift, and it all goes tits up when they start unaliving everyone to take their bodies. So with the Gelth unaliving everyone to use their bodies as hosts, the Doctor and Rose are trapped, and it is fake Gwen who saves the day by unaliving herself to close the rift, as we get to see our second RTD explosion in 3 episodes. This is really starting to become a bit of a recurring theme, Russ. But one thing I will say about these earlier episodes is that the Doctor isn't portrayed as this sort of all-knowing god that he becomes in later series. I'm thinking more towards the sort of Stephen Moffat, Matt Smith, Series 5, Series 6, Series 7 era, where he's just seen as this god who is all-knowing. And it's actually his compassion for saving the Gelth in this episode that nearly leads to the Gelth taking over the planet. And it's actually the companion for this episode, Gwyneth, who saves the day. And I like that. The Doctor is not always right. The Doctor can make mistakes, and he has to rely on his companions to help him out. So with Gwyneth now gone, the Doctor and Rose say goodbye to big Charlie Dickens, who, by the way, in this episode is a little bit pointless. I feel like it was a little bit clickbaity that they put Dickens in this episode, because he doesn't really contribute anything except some vibes and some Dickensian quotes, which I guess kind of makes the episode fun. However, I do like this quote from him as he leaves with a new sense of wonder after the events of the episode.
There are more things in heaven and earth than are dreamt of in your philosophy, even for you, Doctor.
I've gone over this episode pretty quickly, but that's mainly just because I don't enjoy it as much, so I'm sorry if you are a big fan. For the first time viewers, I feel like this episode is pretty good. As I mentioned, the setting is pretty cool, and the gothic horror genre is pretty unique for a Doctor Who episode. But for long-term returning viewers, it is pretty forgettable, and not one that I think many would go back to watch very often. We get more lore into the Doctor's background after the Time War, and this episode does touch on themes that will echo throughout the first series, especially the Doctor's guilt from the big old Time War. The Unquiet Dead is not the worst episode ever made, and especially compared to some entries from more recent series, it is definitely not awful and one that I would happily sit down to watch. But as I say, if I was choosing an episode, this would probably be quite far down the list. So with all that in mind, I'm just going to put this episode in okay. Aliens of London. Alright guys, a bit of a dull entry last time, but we're back with another banger, and as much as this episode is quite often memed, I actually really love it. We have great performances again from all of the characters and more development for the side characters that we were introduced to at the start of the series. We have a great setting inside number 10 Downing Street and giant farting Slovene. What more could you ask for? In all seriousness though, this episode does get laughed at quite a lot because of the Slovene, but I do actually really love them in this episode. Of course, the farting is a little bit silly and it does get laughed at quite a lot, but I genuinely think they're quite menacing looking with the giant frames and that blue glowing light. I really love the episodes that are actually set on Earth. As much as the stories on alien planets are always class, RTD always does such a good job writing stories about the human race and not just alien species. So the cold opening of this episode is one of the best of all time in my opinion. The Doctor and Rose return back to London at 12 hours after she initially left. She runs in to see Jackie, and at the same time we see the Doc finding one of the missing posters as he discovers it's actually been 12 months since they left, not 12 hours. And his delivery when he comes back in to tell Rose is brilliant.
It's not 12 hours, it's 12 months. You've been gone a whole year. Sorry.
As this is the first part of a two-parter, it's a bit more of a slower pace, and the episode really explores the real-life consequences of travelling with the Doctor, and shows the point of view of those left behind, with Jackie thinking Rose is missing, or even worse, unalive for the past 12 months, and Mickey being accused of her murder. When you deep it, it's actually pretty serious stuff. We get another reference to Bad Wolf, and the storyline with the police getting involved and the Doctor being a suspect of kidnapping Rose is really clever, as Jackie lays into the both of them, including a slap for the Doctor, which becomes a bit of a running theme throughout the RTD1 era. So after they finally get out of there, the scene with the Doctor and Rose on the roof is great, with Rose chatting away about all that she's seen. She's the only human to know about the aliens, and right on cue, classic RTD writing, a big spaceship flies overhead and crashes into Big Ben. It's exactly the sort of writing that I love in this era and that makes it so good. So the Doctor slips away into the chaos to go and investigate. Meanwhile, Rose is torn between staying with her family to face the fallout of her disappearance, or to keep running from it with the Doctor. And for the second episode in a row, we have a member of Torchwood making an appearance. Yay! So the Doctor that examines the body pulled from the ship is played by Naoko Mori, or better known as Toshiko Sato from Doctor Who spin-off Torchwood, another great TV show. And I believe we never discover the name of this Doctor. I'm not actually sure if it's ever said throughout the episode, so I'm not sure if it's ever touched on, but could it actually be Tosh before she joins Torchwood? Right, guys, it's post-recording Sam here. You'll never fucking believe it, right? It genuinely is Tosh. I can't believe I'm only just discovering this now, 20 years from when this first released, but it may be common knowledge to a lot of people, but for me, I'm just finding out about this. But the credits actually list her as Dr. Sato, so I think this is Tosh before she joins Torchwood. So I haven't watched Torchwood for a little while, but I believe the end of series 1 of Torchwood, we see Jack leaving Cardiff to go and find the Doctor, and I'm pretty sure that is during the events of series 4 of Doctor Who, the finale of season 4. So the timelines would kind of make sense that Tosh has this experience now with aliens and then goes to work for Torchwood. I cannot believe that 20 years on, this show is still throwing up surprises. So we get introduced to the Slovene inside number 10 Downing Street, and they've effectively hijacked the bodies of all of the government officials and the important people in Britain. I do think with the Slovene, they are a little bit like Marmite. You either love them or you hate them, and I think I love them. We get introduced to Harriet Jones, MP for Flydale North. Yes, we all know who she is.
Harriet Jones, MP for Flydale North.
Never gets old. Again, this is another example of just some great world building and character development from RTD, as Harriet Jones does become quite an influential character in the RTD1 era. So the Doctor's investigating leads him to find out that the pig, which is actually kind of cute by the way, RIP to the little piggy, is actually just a regular pig, and that
Aliens are faking aliens.
Thanks for that one, Tosh. Harriet Jones sees the Slovene unaliving the General so that they can use his body as a skin suit. And again, we get more great scenes of the characters just chilling on the TARDIS, having a good old-fashioned yap before getting taken to Downing Street, which is actually just a big old trap.
We're not being arrested, we're being escorted.
Where to?
Where do you think? Downing Street.
You're kidding.
I'm not.
10 Downing Street.
That's the one.
Walking straight into that trap, the episode ends on a great cliffhanger with all of our main protagonists seemingly cornered as the Slovene reveal themselves, and it's looking pretty bleak for the gang. I've mentioned it a lot throughout this video, but this series already just 4 episodes in has done a great job of building a relationship with the audience and the main group of characters, more than some of the newer series do over spans of whole series. So we actually feel worried that something might happen to one of them, and we actually care. Overall, I do really like this episode, despite it being a bit more of a slow burner. It may not be the strongest story in the series, but a great cold opening, fantastic character building, and a plot that in my opinion keeps you intrigued.
They'll help to identify the bodies.
Whilst I'm sure there are many of people that can't take this episode seriously due to the Slovene, and whilst I may be blinded from some childhood nostalgia, to me, it's a great story that focuses on the real-life consequences of travelling with the Doctor and continues with the great world building we've seen in the first 3 episodes of the series. For me, I really enjoy the episode, and whilst it isn't the strongest, I'm going to put this episode in good. World War III. So this episode starts off by resolving the cliffhanger of the previous part in about 10 seconds as the Doctor breaks loose of the electricity shock and places the lanyard on the Slovene, which in turn causes all of the Slovene to be electrified. Now I know there is a slight mention of a psychic link between the Slovene later on when the policeman gets killed by Jackie and Mickey, but there is no hint that they physically feel the same pain as each other. So I'm not 100% sure how the Doctor shocking one Slovene causes them all to feel this, allowing all of our main gang to escape. But I guess we'll let this one slide, even though it is a completely valid point. The scene where the Doctor tries to convince all the policemen that the Prime Minister is an alien is just brilliant, just classic Christopher Eccleston.
He did it! That man there!
I think you'll find the Prime Minister is an alien in disguise. That's never going to work, is it? No.
And it's a great gag. However, the scene where he just runs away and backs himself into the elevator is just outright stupid. They literally had so long to shoot him whilst he jumps into the lift. And the music as well, it's just so stupid. I kind of love it. It's like classic RTD, but it is just so stupid, man.
Little word of advice. Don't stand him against the lift.
We get lots of scenes of the Slovene running around Downing Street, and whilst this does feel slightly drawn out, I do like that we find out about the Slovene and their plans, and it's revealed to us at the same time as the Doctor works it out, rather than us just being told what they are. The audience work it out at the same time as the Doctor and his companions.
And how do we get out?
Again, the scene where Jackie throws the vinegar and eggs over the Slovene and it just kind of looks around like what the fuck is going on before exploding all over Mickey's kitchen is exactly the kind of comedy writing and the cheese that I love from this series. It's so cheesy, man. It is like a soap opera. It could be serious at times, and we see this in later episodes, but it's also just fun, and that's what I feel Doctor Who should be. Anyway, the Doctor, Rose and Harriet are stuck inside the cabinet rooms, and the Slovene Prime Minister tells the country that there are weapons that are going to blow up the world and they need nuclear launch codes to defend themselves. Of course, the Doctor, who's stuck in the cabinet rooms, knows all of this is a lie, and I do like the scene where he confronts the Slovene.
Search the sky above our heads. Then they have found massive weapons of destruction, capable of being deployed within 45 seconds.
But the Doctor is now stuck with a moral dilemma. Does he stop the Slovene by blowing everybody inside Downing Street up, including himself, Rose and Harriet, or allowing the Slovene the nuclear launch codes that would result in the destruction of the planet. Mickey just being able to open up the internet and hack the entirety of UNIT is extremely far-fetched, and it is really where I draw the line at this point. It's a major plot of the resolution of this episode, and it does slightly take away from the ending. I do, however, love the scene where they're on the phone and together they start narrowing it down and working out who the Slovene are. Again, the performance from Eccleston is fantastic until they finally narrow it down to one planet. Raxacorico Fallopatorius nailed that first time, and we get a fantastic one-liner from Mickey here. Again, the comedy in this series is just so spot on.
Yes, that narrows it down to one planet. Raxacorico Fallopatorius. Oh, yeah, great. We could write him a letter.
Again, Mickey just being able to launch a literal nuclear missile from this 2005 brick computer using Firefox or whatever else everyone was using back in 2005. It's just utterly ridiculous, and I do wish they'd thought up a better resolution for the end of this episode, because it does let it down slightly. So with the missile launch, the scene where the security or the policeman walks in to tell the Prime Minister about the missile and just walks into a room full of Slovene, again, just comedy gold from RTD.
Sorry.
But of course, our main gang survive the missile strike by hiding inside a cupboard. Yeah, again, the resolution is just so far-fetched, man. In reality, they just would have been blown up. It's a nuclear missile, for God's sake. But it is a TV show at the end of the day, so I guess we just have to kind of let it slide to some extent. Again, we get more lovely scenes to close out the episode, just showing the characters not doing much, but just talking about the events of the episode. Again, I love this so much, and the whole 45-minute episode doesn't have to just be action-packed. I love these scenes so much, and that is why we built such relationships with these characters from our TV sets. We get this lovely scene with Rose and Jackie where Rose decides again that she's going to go off with the Doctor. And my favourite of all is when Mickey and the Doctor are outside the TARDIS and Mickey himself admits he's too scared to go with them.
This life of yours, it's just too much. I couldn't do it. Don't tell her I said that.
And it shows the sort of love-hate relationship between the two characters, and the fact that the Doctor does now have some respect for Mickey after him helping save the world, after they didn't really get off on the strongest foot in the first episode, Rose. Again, this is sort of the first part of Mickey's development into the character that we see in the later episodes. I forget how much Mickey's actually in the later episodes. He's in a lot of, like, important episodes. So with everything tied up, the Doctor and Rose swan off once again, and that is that. For me, I don't think the episode is as good as the first part due to the pretty shoddy resolution, but we do still get some great scenes with our main gang, and the episode again is pretty funny. I do think the performances from our main characters, Rose, the Doctor, Mickey, Jackie, and even Harriet Jones in this episode take it from being pretty subpar to a decent watch, and it very much fits in with the RTD1 era of Doctor Who. I think if you swap the actors in this episode, and if this was a Jodie Whittaker episode, it would just be another one of her episodes that is completely forgotten, because the performances are just nowhere near as good, and that's no disrespect to Jodie Whittaker or any of the actors from that era, but our characters here in RTD1 just get it. They just smash it every time, and that is what I mean. It can take a pretty average episode into a good watch. And with all that in mind, I do feel this episode is not as good as the first part, so I'm gonna put it in okay. Dalek. Oh my god, yes, 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 yes. I'm just gonna start off by saying this episode is fantastic. We get the return of the Daleks, and this is such a good introduction to them in the New Who era. Eccleston puts in what is, in my opinion, his best performance as the Doctor, and we get hit with some more lore about the Time War. The setting for this episode is great, a dark and gloomy underground base in Utah housing alien artifacts, and it sets the tone perfectly for this absolute masterpiece. We get introduced to Henry Van Statten, who is basically just the 2005 Elon Musk. We get Adam Mitchell as well, who's just fucking annoying. And also Diana Goddard, who is just a massive cringe bag.
I'll tell you how they got in through the window.
We have an intruder!
How did he get in? In through the window?
We get another Bad Wolf reference with Bad Wolf 1 Descending, and again, I love how this arc is woven through the series without really being the main talking point. As much as I loved the first series with Ncuti Gatwa and Millie Gibson, the whole series was just, oh, who is Ruby's mum and who is Mrs. Flood? And then the massive build-up meant that by the time we got to the climax, inevitably, it was nowhere near as good as we'd all imagined. I feel like writing it this way with subtle hints makes the finale so much better, because I'm pretty sure when I first watched this in 2005, I wasn't really thinking about Bad Wolf that much. I maybe picked up on the references throughout the series, but it wasn't the main big question. No one knew what was coming in the series finale, and it's such a good way of writing. So anyway, back to the episode. There's this big lead up to Van Statten's one living exhibit, the Metaltron, and the Doctor's reaction when he finds the Dalek all broken down and caged up. Oh my god, Eccleston's performance is just fantastic. I cannot get over it. Doubled with the music from Murray Gold, this first scene with the Dalek is just mwah, 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 chef's kiss. It is so good.
Impossible.
Doctor, exterminate!
Fantastic! Oh, fantastic!
Meanwhile, Adam and Rose are doing some flirty, and the Doc gets tortured a bit to progress with the story. Rose just has to go in and touch the Dalek, of course, to bring it back to life after it plays the old sympathy card, the old Puss in Boots eyes. Really pulls on the old heartstrings, and as the Dalek powers up and it initiates cellular reconstruction and then sucks off Simmons as he starts working on his kill streak. He's obviously grinding for that MW2 nuke emblem.
Sucker me to death.
My god, that is such a bad reference. Adam gets absolutely wrecked by the Dalek.
Great big alien death machine, defeated by a flight of stairs.
Elevate!
And the scene where it elevates up the stairs has always stuck with me since a kid. I didn't really watch much of the classic Who, but it was such a big talking point about the one weakness of the Daleks being a flight of stairs. So the Dalek is making its way through the base and it's killing everybody on sight. And oh man, the scene where the Doctor tells the Dalek just to unalive itself hits so hard. Again, Eccleston's performance, mwah, 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 more chef's kisses, because this man has delivered an absolute worldie so far.
Kill yourself.
Daleks must survive!
The Daleks have failed! Why don't you finish the job and make the Daleks extinct? Rid the universe of your filth! Why don't you just die?
You would make a good Dalek.
So Adam and Rose are still down in the lower levels as they were down in the cage, and they have to get through the final gate before the lower floors are sealed off. Adam just absolutely dips and leaves Rose to get stuck down there with the Dalek. And I have to say, I mean, Rose doesn't look like she's making much of an effort. I don't think she won much on Sports Day because she looks like me playing Sunday League with a hangover. The scene where we're led to believe that Rose is gone obviously happens off screen, but as a kid, I genuinely thought she'd been unalived here, and the Doctor's reaction is absolutely amazing. He absolutely loses it with Henry Van Dickhead, and oh my god, it is so emotional, man.
It was the prize of my collection. Your collection? Well, was it worth it? Worth all those men's deaths? Worth Rose? I wanted to touch the stars. You just want to drag the stars down and stick them underground underneath tons of sand and dirt. You're about as far from the stars as you can get.
But wait, the Dalek has fired a few blanks. Happens to the best of us. Meaning Rose does not die because she is main character, but all joking aside, they actually weave it into the story pretty well with Rose being the one that brought the Dalek back to life rather than just she is main character, she cannot die. But obviously the Dalek was reconstructed after being touched by Rose, and her DNA begins to change the Dalek as it absorbs some of her humanity. Pretty heartwarming, as it leads the Dalek to question its own existence. So the Doctor opens up the bulkheads and allows the Dalek through, and he has a little bit of a midlife crisis because he allowed Rose to live. And he just wants his freedom, bless him, the little murdering Dalek. In the final resolution, we get this amazing scene with the Dalek seeing the sunlight, and the Doc turns up with his big guns wanting to unalive the Dalek. But you know what? Despite the fact that he's just murdered all the people on this base, you can't help but feel kind of sad for the Dalek in this scene. The script gets completely flipped, and it makes the Doctor out to be the bad guy before he also has a little cry, and Rose is the one to save the day as the Dalek self-destructs.
The Daleks Daleks destroyed my home, my people. I've got nothing left.
I've got nothing left.
But this scene seriously is so powerful as Rose and ourselves as the audience begin to question the morals of the Doctor. He's still reeling from the Time War and is face to face with his greatest enemy, and we really see his emotions flooding through in this episode. But we're still made to feel as if he is in the wrong for wanting to unalive the Dalek, despite all the killing we've just witnessed. And this leans into what we see more at the end of David Tennant's reign, that he needs somebody with him to keep his emotions in line.
I wasn't... Oh, Rose.
I love the scene where this cringe bag takes over and leaves old Henry Van Staten in San Diego, Seattle, Sacramento, somewhere beginning with an S.
By tonight, Henry Van Staten will be homeless, living on the streets of San Diego, Seattle, Sacramento, someplace beginning with S.
It's so cringe, man. She's such a little cringe bag, but it's a nice little scene to close off the episode, linking back to what we saw Van Staten doing at the beginning. But unfortunately, we do get left with Adam, and oh my god, he's so unbearable. But anyway, I've spent a lot of time talking about this episode because it is an absolute masterpiece and the first of the New Who era. The story is superb with the return of the Daleks. The music from Murray Gold is amazing and really helps with the emotional feel of this episode. Honestly, the music plays such a big part in this, and the performance from Eccleston, mwah, 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 more chef's kisses for this man, because it is just absolutely phenomenal. I still get the same levels of enjoyment going back to watch this episode as I did the first time I watched it, and it is definitely the strongest episode we've had so far in the revival era in series 1, which is why for the first time I am putting this episode in perfection. The long game. Well, we're pretty much halfway through the series now, and it's looking pretty decent so far with a solid series across the board. We've just had the best episode the week before, so are we in for another all-timer? No, it's the worst episode of the series. I spent quite a long time talking about Dalek, but for this episode, it's going to be quite a quick one because it is pretty goddamn boring. I do like the cold opening of the episode with the Doctor and Rose having a little bit of fun and letting Rose impress Adam when they get off the TARDIS.
Judging by the architecture, I'd say we're around the year 200,000. Engines. We're on some sort of space station. A bit warm in here, they could turn the heating down. Tell you what, let's try that gate. Come on.
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention Adam's still here for some reason. Great.
He's your boyfriend.
Not anymore.
The only really good parts about this episode are the world building from RTD with Satellite 5 and the whole arc of the Doctor shutting down the new station, which is relevant come the series finale. We also get Simon Pegg, which is awesome, and with Nick Frost also making an appearance in Series 8, I've said how awesome it would be if we had those two as a Doctor companion duo.
This is totally not happening.
I've got 3 words, Sonar. Don't make me use them.
What 3 words?
My Little Pony.
Shut up, you.
Yeah, I've got lots more, babe.
I will mark you, Santa.
Unlike the previous episodes in this series, there's not a huge amount of comedy in this story, and I think it is meant to be a little bit more serious, but it's just so boring, man. We get introduced to the side characters, and as I say, they're all just so boring. I can't even remember what their names are, although I think one of them might be called Catheter. But anyway, more boring with the story itself. The news is broadcast out to Earth from Satellite 5. But wait, the mighty Jagrafess of the Holy Hadrajasic Maxa Duda is actually in control. Yada, yada, yada. It's so boring.
I call him Max.
Adam is also super annoying in this episode and just wanders off and does what every other annoying, stupid companion does and tries to make a profit from time travel by getting his head cut open by Jackie from Friday Night Dinner.
Hey, Jackie, you look wet.
So basically, Simon Pegg and the giant sluggy Jagrafess are shaping the 4th great and bountiful human empire. Blah, blah, blah. Boring story arc. And then Catheter decides she now wants to help after bailing out 5 minutes ago. She vents all the heat to floor 500, which just makes the Jagrafess explode. And that's it. Everything's saved.
Actually, sir, if it's all the same to you, I think I'll resign. Bye then.
The Doctor works out what Adam has done with his little chip and drops him off home, where I have to say we do get this wonderful closing scene when his mum walks in.
Time goes by like that.
I know what this episode was trying to do even back in 2005. Big Russ was making waves about the media running our lives and manipulating the human race, but as I've mentioned, it's just pretty boring. The side characters are boring, the story is boring, and it's not an episode I would choose to go back and rewatch very often. There are some important scenes for later episodes, and I'm sure that there will be people that love this episode, maybe out there somewhere. But for me, I'm going to be putting this episode in not for me, as it is just pretty boring. Father's Day. So moving on pretty quickly from that episode, let's get back to another banger, eh? And you're going to want to strap in because the second half of this series is pure cinema. I really love this episode because it hits home with me so much. Around 5 years ago, my mum passed away, and like Rose in this episode, and pretty much everybody on the planet, if I were given the chance to go anywhere in time, I too would probably go back to when I was little to see what life was like before my mum and dad got divorced, and more recently my mum passed away. What I will say about this episode firstly is that car is going nowhere near fast enough to unalive someone unless they had some pre-existing injuries. And secondly, the Doctor is pretty stupid allowing this to happen and should really know when they go back for the second time that something fishy is up. But no, he just lets it happen despite knowing what issues it could cause. As much as I love this episode, I do really hate the crappy POV camera angles of the Reapers, and the off-screen deaths are also terrible, but it doesn't take away from how amazing this episode is. The Doctor's face after Rose saves Pete is brilliant, and the whole cause and effect theory is really well explained in this episode. The conflict between the Doctor and Rose is really heartfelt, and Rose's dig at the Doctor is actually pretty savage.
You don't scare me. I know how sad you are. You'll be back in a minute. We hang around outside the TARDIS waiting, and I'll make you wait a long time.
We do get the first of our awful off-screen deaths, and I normally really big up the music in this series, but I hate the music and the sound effect paired with these shots of the Reapers snatching people from time. It's really not aged well. This episode does focus mainly on the emotional impact on the characters, and although we've had a lot of comedy throughout this series, this is more of a serious episode. But the scene where Pete sort of hits on Rose and she proper freaks out is hilarious, but also kind of vile at the same time. Keep it in your pants, Pete. You're married and that is your daughter. That is the weirdest sentence to be saying for this video.
You aren't even aware there exists. There, for you, is like the Bermuda Triangle.
I remember as a kid, the TARDIS just being the size of an ordinary call box properly freaking me out. And also, now that I'm a little bit older, I'm getting married next year. Imagine how pissed off you'd be if all of this was happening on your wedding day. Your one day that's all about you, and it's the end of the world. You'd be absolutely fuming. But again, the emotional feel of this episode as Rose's realisation that everything isn't perfect between her parents is genuinely so heartbreaking, and the pairing of the music from Murray Gold is just absolutely perfect, and honestly, this is a little bit too close to home.
You bring home cut-price detergents, tonic water, Betamax tapes, and none of it works. He's a failure. Born failure, that one.
Jackie, I'm making a living.
Stop it!
We again get more of these awful POV shots and off-screen disappearances, and that Nancy Little Reapers kidnap some kids from the local park before going for Rose. And although the CGI is pretty dated, I actually love the design of the Reapers. They look fucking awesome, man. We get more fantastic scenes between Rose and Pete as he starts to put things together and works out that Rose is actually his daughter. This genuinely brings a tear to my eye every time I see this scene, even with Rose calling Pete daddy, which hasn't really aged well.
You're my Rose.
But the scene of the two of them talking about how Pete was as a father with the soundtrack, again, the music for this episode is just so good, and this properly pulls on those heartstrings. But this is what sort of makes Pete realise that the whole thing is centred around him, because he knows that's not how he is as a dad, and it does eventually lead him to knowing he has to unalive himself to restore normality to the world.
You were there for us all the time. Someone I could really rely on.
That's not me.
So Jackie stumbles in and can't believe that Rose is his daughter and comes out with this incredible one-liner.
How old were you, 12? Oh, it's disgusting.
But this leads to Rose getting handed herself as a baby, and it allows the Reaper into the church. The Doc gets gobbled up and the TARDIS disappears, and now they are well and truly fucked. So with the Reapers coming after them, Pete knows exactly what he has to do to save the universe, and before he goes, we get one final utterly horrible "my daddy" quote from Rose. Honestly, this is the worst of the bunch, and they have not aged well.
My daddy.
But as Pete unalives himself, we do get to see Rose spend his final minutes with her, which again pulls on those heartstrings, especially after the introduction to this episode where we see Jackie telling Rose that someone was with him holding his hand as he passed away. To then find out that that was Rose is pretty full on, and obviously this comes up in the series finale when Jackie and Rose are talking. But yeah, this episode is an absolute banger, guys, I won't lie, and it just hits home with probably most viewers of the show. It is an absolute masterpiece. However, I do have a few gripes with this episode, and that is the fact that we never see the Reapers again. Like, there's so many times where we see paradoxes in later series and the Reapers never show up. I know it would get a bit boring if they kept showing up every time there was a paradox, but yeah, kind of grates on me a little bit that the POV shots and the off-screen deaths are also pretty awful, and the soundtrack when the Reapers are on again just doesn't fit with the episode because the rest of the music and the soundtrack is so good. But this is a small price to pay for the emotional excellence of this episode that just hits you right where it hurts in the feelers. And whilst I don't think of this episode as an absolute all-timer, the absolute goats of Doctor Who episodes, it is really not far off. So this episode for me is going to go in great, which might be a little bit controversial, but it is really not far away from being perfect. Are you my mummy? Ah, yes, guys, it's time for The Empty Child, our very first Moffat two-parter. Yay! I have to say, I think this is actually when Stephen Moffat is at his best, when he's able to write single stories rather than being the showrunner, and we see this here. I think back to episodes like The Forest of the Dead and Silence of the Library, that two-parter, such a good story. And of course, it introduces River Song, which goes on to be such a confusing arc when Stephen is the showrunner. But this for me is where Stephen is at his best, and this episode is the perfect blend of horror and sci-fi, and the setting during the London Blitz of 1941 is a perfectly eerie backdrop. The episode kicks off diving straight into the action. The Doc and Rose are chasing down something mauve and dangerous.
It's mauve and dangerous.
And of course, it is heading straight for the centre of London. The Doctor and Rose land in London and find a jazzy little underground club, and of course they decide to split up as Rose goes after this mysterious child just chilling on the rooftops of London, whilst the Doctor delivers this brilliant line where he discovers they're in the middle of the London Blitz.
There's this thing that I need to find. Would have landed quite near here with a very loud bang.
Meanwhile, Rose decides to climb this conveniently appearing rope and gets pulled miles above London wearing a giant Union flag.
Excuse me, Mr. Connolly, hang on a minute. Union Jacks?
Yes, that's right, isn't it?
That's the Union flag. It's the Union Jack only when it's flown at sea.
Oh, I'm sorry. I do apologise.
Well, don't get it wrong again. There's a good man now. Get to it!
We very briefly get introduced to Nancy before she disappears into the night, and the Doc answering the phone like it's infected always gets a bit of a chuckle from me. Anyway, Heather from EastEnders and her family take cover in the air raid shelter, and we get our first glimpse into Nancy's little act of stealing the food from the rich to give to the poor. Very Robin Hood-like.
No such thing as Robin Hood.
The scene of them eating around the table is fantastic, and we get more great humour from Eccleston with this.
Thanks, miss.
So creepy the way he's just sat at the table with all the kids, but I'm not sure he'd be particularly good at Pictionary looking at this. We then get the child in the gas mask calling for its mummy, and this is genuinely spine-chilling.
I heard a banging.
Fucking Mrs. Springett!
gave me nightmares as a child and still gives me chills to this day. We then get introduced to Captain Hunky Jack, and my god, his introduction is great. He's cheeky and flirty as ever, and he saves Rose from falling to her death with the tractor beam, and then in typical Jack fashion gets his flirt on straight away.
You're fine. The tractor beam, it can scramble your head just a little.
Hello.
The Doc gets memed on for having a big nose and big ears, which always gets a chuckle from me.
My nose has special powers.
Yeah? That why it's so?
What?
Nothing. Juries have special powers too.
So due to this story being a double-parter, the pace is significantly slower and we get a lot of detail into the characters, just building on their development. And that's our main characters and our side characters. And again, Christopher Eccleston really shines in this episode. Nancy helps him find the Tula warship, which we learned was actually parked by Jack as a bit of a bargaining chip with the Time Agency, which is important later on in the episode. So the Doctor learns that he needs to go and speak to the Doctor at the Albion Hospital, and we learn that all the patients have the exact same diagnosis, and they're all actually still alive, and we get this chilling scene here.
They're not dead.
We get to see ourselves firsthand the truly terrifying transformation of Dr. Constantine, which is just full-on nightmare fuel. The episode is left on a fantastic cliffhanger in typical Moffat fashion, with the Doctor, Rose and Jack surrounded by the gas mask zombies as "Are You My Mummy?" rings through the hallways, and it is genuinely so creepy. I actually really love the slower pace to this episode, which allows for a more detailed story, and as I've mentioned, it's a bit of a classic Moffat story and it hits every mark. It's scary, it's funny, it's smart, and it's very emotionally engaging as we learn more about the characters. As I've already mentioned, the backdrop of the London Blitz is a fantastic setting for a kind of creepy horror episode, and as a huge fan of the horror genre, this episode perfectly balances the real-life gritty horror of the war to the eerie creepiness of the traditional horror tropes that we see throughout this episode. It sets up the second part perfectly, and I love watching this episode back even now 20 years on. So for me, I'm going high with this one. I'm putting it in perfect. The Doctor dances. The introduction to this episode, wow, we kick off directly where the first part ended, with our trio cornered by the gas mask zombies, and again, mwah, chef's kiss for Christopher Eccleston for this performance, because he is fantastic, demanding them to go to your room, which they do, and the trio are saved for now.
Go to your room!
We find out more about Jack's con with the Tula warship, and we also get a nod to Pompeii and Volcano Day, which of course is visited in a later episode.
I'll tell you what's happening. It's Volcano Day.
The trio continue to investigate the hospital as the Doctor is beginning to piece everything together, but is still trying to work out the cause of the plague. We get a lovely scene with a nod to Villain Guard, which is mentioned numerous times during Moffat's writing, and even as recently as with the 15th Doctor during the episode Boom, which of course was also written by Stephen Moffat.
Weapon factories of Villain Guard? Well, they're gone now, destroyed. Like I said, once.
They investigate the room the child was taken to after the Tula warship fell and discover the tapes of Dr. Constantine investigating the child's strange disease. Nancy drops one of the coldest deliveries of all time, looking like she's Cole Palmer as she mugs off the fella who's been getting friendly with the butcher. Great line.
Half this street thinks your missus must be messing about with Mr. Averstock, but she's not, is she? You are.
And this is followed by one of the creepiest scenes in the whole of Doctor Who history, in my opinion, when the tape stops rolling, but the "Are You My Mummy?" continues ringing through the room. You all know the scene I'm talking about, and again, this is just brilliant writing from Stephen Moffat, and this is a method that he uses a lot throughout his time with the show.
What's that noise?
End of the tape.
I'm here now.
I sent it to its room.
Are you my mummy?
This episode is honestly so creepy, and we do get a bit of comedy as well with this fantastic one-liner from the Doctor. We've got to have some comedy thrown in.
Don't drop the banana! Why not? Good source of potassium!
They then get surrounded again, and as the Doctor and Jack compare their sonic instruments,
A sonic what? Screwdriver!
It is Rose that saves them, only for them to get trapped once again. There are honestly so many innuendos in this episode, which is no surprise when Captain Jack's around, but even the episode title, The Doctor Dances, is one huge innuendo for, well, I assume you all know what. As I mentioned earlier on, we get another use of Moffat's scare tactics. Similarly to the tape ending, we have the typewriter still typing when nobody is using it, as Jamie is still asking where his mummy is.
So who's typing?
Nancy finally decides to tackle the problem head on and heads back to the rail yard, but is captured pretty quickly, where this guy gives a 10 out of 10 performance. He really understood the assignment. We get even more innuendos as Jack goes off to flirt with this soldier, and Rose is appalled by the human race dancing with other species.
He's just a bit more flexible when it comes to dancing.
How flexible?
So many species, so little time.
What? That's what we do when we get out there. We seek new life and
Dance.
All the gas mask zombies start converging on our little squad, and the Doctor works out that the capsule they were chasing was a Chula medical transport filled with the nanogenes that Jack used earlier on to repair Rose's rope burns. The Doctor realised that when the ship landed, it found Jamie dead wearing a gas mask and assumed that's how the humans were supposed to look. So they repaired everyone else to look like Jamie, hence the gas mask wearing zombie horde. Nancy finally admits to the Doctor and really to herself that Jamie is actually her son, not her brother, and she's been letting it on the whole time, and the emotional reveal is pretty tear-jerking. The Doctor gets Nancy to embrace Jamie and tells him the truth that she is his mummy, showing the nanogenes the correct template for the human race, so that the nanogenes can correct Jamie's body and use this template to correct everybody else too. The Doctor's reaction to the transformation is so heartwarming, and we get the iconic "Everybody Lives" quote from Eccleston.
Everybody lives, Rose. Just this once. Everybody lives!
Which honestly brings a tear to my eye every time I see it. I am way too emotionally attached to this show. With the crisis averted, Jack's ship is set to explode, but of course Rose and the Doc rescue him just in time, and Jack joins them in the TARDIS as we get more lovely scenes of our characters just on the TARDIS living their best life. Something I've mentioned a lot during this series that we just don't see enough of later on in the show. The Doctor's dad dancing is so wholesome and honestly reminds me of how my own dad dances, and the three of them fly off for future adventures as we see one of the most satisfying emotional payoffs in the whole show. This episode for me is an absolute standout as it continues the blend of horror and history from the first part, The Empty Child, but finishes with a happy ending. We get great themes of love and hope, whilst also still having the chilly vibe of London during the Blitz to keep the horror themes. We get introduced to Captain Jack during this story, and of course he goes on to become a bit of an icon of the show, especially during the first 4 series, and John Barrowman's performance keeps us wanting more. I love him in this show. I don't care what anyone says, I love him. And again, the iconic duo of Christopher Eccleston and Billie Piper never let us down. They were just smashing out 10 out of 10 performances week in, week out. I think in particular Eccleston's Doctor is usually so serious and he's so haunted by the Time War, which they focus a lot on during this series, but here we see him get a real moment of happiness, and the "Everybody Lives" speech is just so heartwarming. As I mentioned for the first part, being such a big horror fan, I absolutely love this episode, and I think it's pretty well regarded between the Doctor Who fans, but for me, I would not change a single thing about this episode. I absolutely love it. Again, the blend of horror, the humour that we see, and the heart as well. For me, the Doctor Dances is right up there at the top. This storyline as a whole is absolutely perfect, and still holds up so well 20 years on. Boomtown. Just want to start off by saying I absolutely love this episode, and I know it gets a little bit of hate as a bit of a filler episode, but for me it's fantastic filler. We get shown a little flashback at the start of the episode to an earlier story in the series with the Slovene, which gets the old brain going, maybe this is going to be linked to that episode. And yep, straight away we have Foch Balfoon, or whatever her name is. We'll call her Margaret, as she is unaliving involving some poor fella who tells her the power station is going to go nuclear. Roll the title sequence, the Sladina back. We get reintroduced to Mickey, and we have a lovely 5-minute or so scene of the characters just chilling out on the TARDIS, having a great time. Again, I've already mentioned a lot throughout this video about how we just don't see enough of this in future series, and you don't get the feeling that the characters have actually developed a relationship in any way throughout the course of the series, and we're just told that they have due to all the off-screen fun they've been having. But in this first series of Doctor Who, the story continues from one episode to another, and we actually see the character development happening in front of us, which is why we learn to love the characters, as I've mentioned so much throughout this video. We learn that the TARDIS needs refueling over the rift in Cardiff, again another nod to a previous episode in The Unquiet Dead, and another case of how good of a job RTD does with his world building. So the newfound squad set off for some fun in Cardiff, and we see Margaret in her ruse of being the mayor of the city. We get this fantastic scene where Margaret is planning to unalive this reporter, but decides to let her live after finding out that she's due to get married and is also pregnant. It's a really poignant scene which shows the more human side of Margaret, and the music by Murray Gold fits the scene superbly.
Andy, my boyfriend thinks I'm mad. We're getting married next month, and he says if I cause a fuss I could lose my job. But the baby sort of clinched it, I suppose. You're with child?
So we go from all jokey fun times in the restaurant to serious mode as they discover that Margaret is the mayor of Cardiff, and they start investigating. And although this scene is more serious, we still have that underlying theme of humour. And the actual scene where Margaret makes a run for it out the window is hilarious.
She's up to her eyes in paperwork.
She's climbing out the window, isn't she?
Yes, she is.
Along with Mickey falling over the cleaner's trolley, and the scene with the teleporting just tops it all off.
This is persecution. Why can't you leave me alone? What did I ever do to you?
You tried to kill me and destroy this entire planet.
Apart from that.
So our gang capture Maggie in her office and discover that the nuclear station is actually made to explode, and Margaret's plan is to ride the
Tribophysical waveform macrokinetic extrapolator.
The what?
Tribophysical waveform macrokinetic extrapolator.
Hang on, one more time.
Tribophysical waveform macrokinetic extrapolator.
Yeah, that thing. Her plan is to ride it off planet Earth. The foreshadowing of Blydrug or Bad Wolf is a perfect setup for what is to come in the season finale, and has been subtly hinted throughout the entire season, and the way the Doc just brushes it off is actually really funny.
Everywhere we go, 2 words, Bad Wolf.
How can they be following us?
Nah, just a coincidence.
So the actress who plays Margaret, Annette Badland, steals the show in this episode for me. I've mentioned many times about the performances of Eccleston and Billie Piper, but in this episode it's actually one of the supporting cast members who shines, as she makes the wait for the TARDIS to refuel as difficult as possible for the gang, reminding them constantly of how they are taking her to her death. And this forces them into a bit of a moral dilemma of whether they have the right to decide her fate despite all of her wrongdoing.
Let's see who can look me in the eye.
Meanwhile, Mickey and Rose head off to spend some time together, but if anything it just becomes more awkward as Mickey opens up about how he feels abandoned since Rose left, and his breakdown is pretty full on.
You left me! We were nice, we were happy. And then what, you give me a kiss and you run off with him and you make me feel like nothing, Rose. I was nothing. I can't even go out with a stupid girl from a shop because you pick up the phone and I come running.
Rose basically tells him she's never going to leave the Doctor and the TARDIS, and their relationship is kind of left hanging in the balance.
Oh, go on then, run! It's him again, isn't it? It's the Doctor. It's always the Doctor. It's always going to be the Doctor. It's never me.
And this little subplot reminds us of the ones who are left behind and the consequences of time travel with the Doctor. One of the most iconic scenes in the episode is the Doctor and Margaret's dinner, where we see that Margaret is actually a little horn dog and loves a good old chain and whip.
Dinner in bondage. Works for me.
Whilst they're out at the dinner, she tries every trick in the book to escape the Doctor, but none of them work as the Doctor outwits her every time, and the performance of the two of them together is just brilliant.
A female Raxacoricophalopatorian can manufacture a poison dart within her own finger.
Yes, I did.
Just checking.
As a final resort, the excess poison can be exhaled through the lungs.
That's better. Now then, what do you think? Steak looks nice. Steak and chips.
So Margaret's full plan is revealed as she built the nuclear station to open up the rift and escape Earth by riding the energy wave on the thing that we mentioned earlier.
Tribophysical waveform macrokinetic extrapolator.
Which would have resulted in the destruction of Cardiff. The rift begins to open due to the TARDIS acting as a power source, but the TARDIS itself actually intervenes, opening its heart to Margaret, and it's the sentient response from the TARDIS that really takes this finale to the next level and foreshadows the series finale. As the light from the heart of the TARDIS envelops Margaret, she's regressed into a Slovene egg and returned to Raxacorico Fallopatorius to be raised properly and given a second chance at life.
Here she is.
She's an egg.
Regress to a childhood.
She's an egg.
She can start again. Live a life from scratch.
She's an egg.
She's an egg.
And the episode comes full circle and mercy triumphs over vengeance. With the rift sealed and Margaret now just an egg, the squad are ready to head off once again. Mickey leaves heartbroken after realising that Rose is never going to come back to him, and the TARDIS dematerialises as we head into the series finale. Now, all in all, it doesn't sound like a lot happens in this episode, but honestly, it's just so heartfelt, and I know it is just a filler episode, but it's really heartwarming filler. I love it. And as a kid, I do actually remember watching this episode a lot and just really enjoying it, and that's the whole point of watching this TV show, is for the enjoyment. Yes, we want to see cool aliens and we want to see cool stories, but it's just about how much we enjoy the episodes. And for me, as a kid, I really enjoyed this episode, and even rewatching it for this video, I still thoroughly enjoyed it. So this might be a bit controversial. Normally it's pretty low down in rankings, but for me, I'm going to put Boomtown in great. I love this episode. Bad Wolf. Well, guys, it is time for the Series 1 finale, and if you've made it this far, you are an absolute legend. It's been a great series so far, especially the second half, and let's see what the finale has in store for us. So the episode kicks off with the Doc waking up in the Big Brother house, which I guess was relevant back in 2005, and his reaction to being there is just brilliant.
You are live on channel 44,000. Please do not swear.
You have got to be kidding.
We also see Rose waking up inside a game of The Weakest Link, and Jack waking up in this other fashion show that I guess was also popular back in 2005.
Am I naked in front of millions of viewers?
Absolutely.
Ladies, your viewing figures just went up.
To start off, the episode seems quite fun with the gang taking part in their game shows, but it quickly turns sinister when the Doc sees the disintegrator beam taking out this woman who I think is called Crosby, and the Doctor's reaction makes you realise that something is seriously wrong with the game station.
What was that? Disintegrator beam.
She's been evicted from life.
Rose begins to discover that the Bad Wolf clues we've seen in earlier episodes are not a coincidence after all, and that someone has been planning this all across the universe. I wonder who that could be.
The darkness, the big bad wolf.
The Doc breaks out of the Big Brother house with Linda with a Y, and hang on a minute, that's Lou Shakespeare from Shakespeare and Hathaway. Well, we all know how it ends for Linda, and I can't believe both her and Frank Hathaway got unalived during this first series of Doctor Who. R.I.P. man.
Stay in there, you've got a 50-50 chance. Stay with me, I promise I'll get you out alive.
Linda, you're sweet.
From what I've seen of your world, do you think anybody votes for sweet?
Jack also breaks out of the game show in typical Jack fashion with this brilliant scene of, where were you hiding that?
But you're unarmed. You're naked. But that's a compact laser deluxe. Where were you hiding that?
You really don't want to know.
It's so funny, man. But with the Doc and Jack now outside the games, they join up and hunt down where Rose is. And in one of the most emotional scenes of the whole series, Rose gets unalived by the android. Unlike in Dalek, which I mentioned when we covered that episode, you never really kind of thought she was gone. But when you see this happening on screen, you genuinely believe for yourself that she is gone. And the emotion of this scene, with the sound drowned out and the music from Murray Gold, the look on the Doc's face, oh my god, it is genuinely so good, and it brings me to tears every time I watch it. So we see them get captured, and the next scene after this where they break out is so cold from Jack and the Doc, and they make their way up to floor 500 and infiltrate the top floor and discover that the controller sees and hears everything and that she was the one who pulled them into the games. The reason she did this was because she needed the Doctor here to save her from her masters.
My masters, they fear the Doctor.
And the whole scene where she actually tells the Doctor who they are when the solar flare has moved on is great, and the music paired with it again just so good.
Oh, my masters, you can kill me, for I've brought your destruction.
Jack works out that the disintegrator beam is actually a transmat and is not a disintegrator at all, and that Rose is still alive. Yay!
It's a transmat beam, a secondary transmat system. Dr. Rose is still alive!
And as we close out the episode, we get the reveal of the Daleks. So good. I remember watching it as a child, and you see the whole empire. It's just filmed so well. The music is perfect. The Doctor's performance is fantastic. And when he tells Rose that he's coming to save her, oh, it sends a shiver down my spine. It is so perfect. And Eccleston, again, oh, what a performance. I'm going to wipe every last stinking Dalek out of the sky.
Because this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to save Rose Tyler from the middle of the Dalek fleet. And then, just to finish off, I'm going to wipe every last stinking Dalek out of the sky.
It's so good, man. Honestly, if you watch that and it doesn't bring a chill to you, honestly, find a new show to watch. It is so good, man. I sound like I'm just saying, oh my god, this is so good, I love it so much, but it's just a perfect end to the first part of the series finale, and if it doesn't leave you intrigued for the second part, I don't know what will. We have a brilliant storyline. The music in the episode is by far the best we've had throughout the series, and the performance from our main gang, especially Christopher Eccleston, but John Barrowman as well, and Billy Piper, chef's kisses all round, and the cliffhanger just leaves you wanting more. As series finales go, this is still one of my absolute favourites, despite us now having 15 series of Doctor Who in the New Who era. It still holds up as one of the best, and for me, the first part of this is just absolute cinema. The way it sets up, the way the Daleks are introduced, you know where it's going, top of the list, perfect. The parting of the ways. This episode kicks off right where we left the first part, and we dive straight into the drama as the Doctor and Jack land the TARDIS on the Dalek command ship, materializing around a Dalek, and the scene where Jack blows it to bits is pretty fucking awesome. So the gang are reunited on the TARDIS, but still have the problem of an insane Dalek fleet wanting to take over the Earth. The gang get introduced to the Emperor of the Daleks, who again looks fucking epic and is all like, they survived through me. They survived through me. The Emperor explains that they created a new army of Daleks from the humans taken from the game shows, and Rose's face when they're describing this just sums up everybody's reaction watching this for the first time. The Daleks having an idea of blasphemy makes the Doctor realise that they have gone completely insane, and again, Eccleston's performance is superb. His reaction when he enters the TARDIS and he just leans up against the door showing his true emotion, oh man, it is just so good. So they head back to Satellite 5, and the Doc begins working on a delta wave, which in theory would fry the brains of the Daleks, whilst Jack begins setting up defences to hold off the Dalek attack.
Trouble is, wave this size, building this big, brain as clever as mine, should take about 3 days. How long till the fleet arrive?
22 minutes.
We get this very awkward goodbye between the Doc and Linda, and then some smoochy smooches from Jack to both Rose and the Doc, which feels like a goodbye. Then we get this. One of the most emotional scenes in the whole show as the Doc sends Rose back home so that she's safe. His little run out of the TARDIS as he stops to send her home and pull out the Sonic. Oh my god, it's heartbreaking. And Rose's reaction is so emotional. The end of the hologram when he says, "Have a good life." Oh my god, the music is just so heartbreaking, man. Brings a tear to my eye every time.
Have a fantastic life.
On Satellite 5, the Doc and Jack are still preparing the Delta Wave, and the Emperor of the Dalek interrupts and is all like, "Tell him the truth, Doctor," and explains that there is no way for the Delta Wave to be refined only to Dalek DNA, and therefore it would kill every living thing in its range, which covers the entire of planet Earth. And you discover that that is the decision the Doctor has to make: die as a human or live as a Dalek.
Die as a human or live as a Dalek.
Meanwhile, back on Earth, Rose can't deal with the fact the Doctor is fighting this battle on his own, and I have to say her little hissy fit as she runs out the chip shop is kinda hilarious. But I get it, she's tasted adventure and now she's stuck watching the end of the world from a chippy. It's tragic and Billie Piper plays it beautifully.
You've the guts to do what's right when everyone else just runs away, and I...
Meanwhile, the Dalek fleet begin infiltrating Satellite 5 and begin making their way through the defences as we see the true destruction of the Daleks as they take out Elaine the Pain, this guy whose name I can't remember, the android, and then they come for Linda. The scene where she gets unalived is truly, truly sad, and what a hero Linda with a Y was. I would have loved to have seen her more often in this show. And then we get the scene as the last line of defence, such an iconic and important scene in the Doctor Who universe. Jack is exterminated by the Daleks as they reach the Doctor on floor 500.
I kind of figured that.
However, whilst all of this is ongoing, Rose isn't just sitting about twiddling her thumbs. No, she's been at work and she sees the Bad Wolf graffiti. She knows something is up. She needs to get back and save the Doctor. So her and Mickey decide they need to speak to the heart of the TARDIS, linking back to the previous episode where we saw the light envelop Margaret the Slitheen. And they begin using Mickey's shitty little mini to try and open it, which proves to be very unsuccessful. Just when Rose feels that all hope is lost, it's Jackie who saves the day after this wonderful scene where Rose tells her that how she went back to meet Pete.
You saw her from a distance, Mum. That was me. You saw me. That's how good the Doctor
Stop it! Just stop it!
It's so sad. Again, it's so heartfelt as she reveals that the girl with the blonde hair who was with him when he died was her. It's so heartbreaking. And Jackie's reaction is so heartfelt because how would you react to being told that in real life? And that is the power of what the Doctor can do. But as I say, it is Jackie who saves the day, or rather Rodrigo.
Mum, where the hell did you get that from? Rodrigo, he owes me a favour. Never mind why.
Oh, Jackie, you little minx. But using the recovery truck, they are able to break into the heart of the TARDIS, and Rose looks directly into the time vortex. On floor 500, the Doctor is surrounded, and all series long we've been focusing on the Doctor's grief and the guilt from the Time War and killing his entire species. And when put in a very similar position, will he do the same and activate the Delta Wave? Well, we get this lovely scene of the Doctor and the Emperor of the Daleks where the Doctor reveals himself as a coward any day. So iconic.
Coward. Any day.
And just as the Doctor is waiting to be exterminated, we get the big reveal of the Bad Wolf plot, as Rose herself is the Bad Wolf, leaving messages scattered through time and space, leading her back to this exact moment. Rose disintegrates all the Daleks with merely a thought, and this line to the Emperor Dalek is so cold.
You are tiny.
With the power of the time vortex running through her, she brings Jack back to life, and I guess, lol, F you, Linda, you can stay unalived, you ain't taking my Doc. But the power of the time vortex is burning her up, and the Doc gives her a big old smooch to save the day by taking the power of the time vortex into himself, saving Rose by sacrificing himself. Rose wakes up on the TARDIS alive and safe, however, the Doctor is not, and he tells her that he absorbed the time vortex and now his body is dying. In our final all-timer performance from Eccleston, he explains that the Time Lords have this little trick, a sort of way of cheating death, and just before he goes, we get this final absolutely fantastic quote. And honestly, this show brings me to tears way too often. I cannot watch this scene without tearing up a little bit.
Before I go, I just want to tell you were fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And you know what? So was I.
But as one great Doctor's reign comes to an end, we get introduced to David Tennant, who is my Doctor, the man that made me really fall in love with this show. And even from the introduction, a little 15-second clip, you can just tell how great he is going to be as the episode ends off with Barcelona. It's so good, man. And I speak a lot about how much I loved Eccleston, but growing up, David Tennant was really my Doctor. And it wasn't actually until I got a bit older and went back and watched Series 1 that I realised how much I loved Christopher Eccleston. And seeing his reign come to an end, as I say, it's really sad, but it's done so well. The Parting of the Ways is still to this day one of my favourite series finales of the entire show's history. The emotional depth this episode goes into with the Doctor choosing mercy over murder, Rose putting herself in danger to come back and save him, and then the emotional goodbye we get from Eccleston. This episode is just an absolute masterpiece. As I say, David Tennant was my Doctor, but growing up I have come to love Eccleston's incarnation of the Doctor. And in his own words, there's not much more to say than he was just absolutely fantastic. The storyline and the weaving everything together in this episode, paired with the music and the emotions, just means there is only one place for this episode to go, and it is heading straight to the top of our tier list in perfection. So that is the end of the main series, and what a series we ended up getting. I've got so many episodes in perfection, but I kind of link The Empty Child, The Doctor Dances, and Bad Wolf and The Parting of the Ways as one story. So really there's 3 stories in perfection. We've got some great episodes, some enjoyable ones, some okay, and then we've got the long game, which we're not really going to talk about. But what I am going to do, as it is technically still part of season 1, I am going to go over the Christmas invasion as a little bit of a bonus, and that will lead us into series 2. So if you do want to see a video similar to this on series 2, let me know down in the comments what you want to see, whether you want it to be a little bit more in depth, a little bit less in depth. Let me know what you want, and I will deliver. But yeah, we're going to jump into the Christmas invasion to close out this video. Christmas invasion. So as we close out series 1 of the show, it's time for our first Christmas special of the reboot era, and we get treated to killer Santas, evil spinning Christmas trees, and most importantly, David Tennant in what is our first installment of Doctor Who-mas. I really love how, again, this episode carries on directly from the previous episode, as it just helps with the continuation of the story. I love that the first shot of the episode is the same as the first episode of the series Rose, but instead focuses on Jackie and Mickey, who still think that Rose is unalived after the events of the Parting of the Ways. But as they hear the TARDIS engines, we get this awesome scene of it crashing it down onto the Powell estate. And again, this looks awesome even 20 years on. We get our first glimpse of David Tennant as he falls unconscious, and we get this terrible Doctor Who from Jackie.
What do you mean that's the Doctor? Doctor Who?
So the beginning of the episode is quite slow as the Doc just remains unconscious throughout, although we do get this absolutely brilliant line from Jackie.
Anything else he's got to on?
We get a lovely callback to the episode World War III with Harriet Jones now being Prime Minister. Yes, we know who you are. And my god, I just love her character, man. We see that the Earth space probe that has been sent into space gets sucked off by this spaceship, and Rose, Mickey and Jackie get attacked by a band of evil Santas. And also an evil Christmas tree, and Jackie's reaction to this is just hilarious. The Doc wakes up momentarily to save them and menacingly points his Sonic at the pilot fish, but again, it is Jackie that steals the show for me in this scene.
Is it food? Nice bowl of soup, soup and a sandwich?
I need you to shut up!
Oh, he hasn't changed that much, has he?
The Doc explains that he's still regenerating, but that something else is coming as he goes all Barty Crouch Jr. and collapses once again.
Something is coming.
We learn learn that signal has been established with the Earth probe, and we get our first look at the Sycorax as they broadcast live on BBC One, causing Harriet Jones to put together a little unit task force as we learn that the Sycorax are heading straight towards planet Earth. Again, this episode is an hour long, so it's slightly more drawn out than the rest of the series, and we see that the humans have this translation technology that allows them to speak with the Sycorax. However, this does not go to plan as a third of the planet are in a sort of trance state and all head to the nearest rooftop and walk right up to the edge. We learn that all these people are the same blood type, A positive, and that the Sycorax are controlling all the people with A positive blood as a sample was part of the Earth probe that was sent into space, which landed on the Sycorax ship.
It's my fault. I put on maps and music and samples and blood. A positive.
In a desperate final plea, Harriet Jones turns to a live TV broadcast for the Doctor to save them, and to be fair, delivers this fantastic one-liner.
Did we ask about the royal family? Oh, they're on the roof.
Rose is having a bit of a meltdown as the Sycorax ship hits the atmosphere.
Sonic wave! It's the spaceship, it's hit the atmosphere!
And she decides that the best plan is to take the Doctor and hide it out on the TARDIS, whilst Harriet Jones is still fighting the good fight and is teleported onto the Sycorax ship, where we get this brilliant line from the space probe man.
They might be like us. Or not.
He then tries to be all authoritarian and just gets completely wrecked by the Sycorax. The unit general then tries to pipe up and, yep, you guessed it, same thing happens. We get this brilliant piece of dialogue as even the Sycorax know who Harriet Jones is, and this joke is just so simple but so funny, man. It's just so well written into the story.
Harriet Jones, Prime Minister.
But she is told to surrender the planet or the third of the population that are being controlled will be unalived. Meanwhile, down on Earth, Rose, Jackie and Mickey are stocking up on the TARDIS with the Doctor, and whilst Jackie does the most British thing and makes them a cup of tea, Mickey and Rose accidentally send a signal to the Sycorax ship, and the TARDIS gets teleported up into space, leaving Jackie behind. Not knowing they've been teleported, Rose walks out of the TARDIS to go and help Jackie, but finds herself kidnapped by the Sycorax. Her scream then alerts Mickey, who drops the flask full of tea and is also captured by the Sycorax. In a really hilarious scene, Rose steps up to talk on behalf of the planet and just dumps a load of timey-wimey name-dropping on the Sycorax, who literally just laugh in her face.
Now leave this planet in peace!
In a scene that I absolutely love and I think is so cleverly done, the leader of the Sycorax is taunting the gang and Harriet's little side piece is translating using the Earth technology. But wait, hang on a second, he's speaking in English, which must mean one thing, big dramatic reveal.
Fill your people in sleep.
Which means it's working. Which means...
Did you miss me?
Oh yeah, it's time for David Tennant, ladies and gentlemen, and his introduction is just superb as he disarms the Sycorax like it's nothing and has a little catch up with the gang. I could honestly just leave the whole scene for us here to watch because Tennant just steals the show with his performance. We get a little bit of lore on the regeneration of the Time Lords, and David drops this absolutely iconic scene.
I demand to know who you are. I don't know.
It's so funny, man. He's just so good at playing the Doctor. He then explains that he doesn't know what sort of a man he is, which is quite a common theme in this sort of third act. But he works out that the Sycorax are controlling the A-positive people with the blood control and can't resist pushing the threatening big red button, which in fact releases everyone from the hypnosis. Again, David's performance is just absolutely brilliant as he tries to reason with the Sycorax and even drops a Lion King quote in here too.
There is more to see than can ever be seen. More to do than... No, hold on. Sorry, that's the Lion King.
He then challenges the leader of the Sycorax to a duel, because why the fuck not? And we get this magnificent action sequence. A pinstriped pajama David Tennant taking on the leader of the Sycorax. What could possibly go wrong? Well, quite a lot actually, as the Doc loses his hand in the fight. But wait, hang on a second, the Doctor just grows his fucking hand back. How cool is that?
And now I know what sort of man I am. I'm lucky, because quite by chance, I'm still within the first 15 hours of my regeneration cycle.
Witchcraft.
Time Lord.
So the fight between the two continues, and the best part about the Doctor's new hand, it's a fighting hand.
You want to know the best bit? This new hand. It's a fighting hand.
The Doctor disarms the Sycorax leader and initially spares his life in return for the Sycorax leaving the planet. But there is still one more twist in the tale as we see the real dark side of the 10th Doctor.
No second chances. I'm that sort of a man.
He sends the Sycorax on their way after just unaliving their leader with a pretty awesome speech.
When you go back to the stars and tell others of this planet, then make sure that you tell them this. It is defended.
But as they return back down to the planet against his will, Harriet Jones instructs Torchwood to destroy the ship in orbit, and the Doc straight up ruins her career with a simple 6 words. Don't you think she looks tired?
Don't you think she looks tired?
But the episode ends with some Christmassy goodness as we see the Doctor picking out his new outfit in what is always a really fun scene. And of course, the 10th Doctor's pinstripe brown suit is an instant classic with the long brown coat and is perfectly accompanied by the soundtrack. I wish today was just like every other day. God, I am so sorry, guys. The Doctor stays for Christmas dinner with Rose, Jackie and Mickey, and I think this really encapsulates the difference between Christopher Eccleston and David Tennant's Doctor. Eccleston refused to come for dinner with Jackie and Rose, claiming that he doesn't do that, where Tennant embraces the fact he has his little family here on Earth. And for me, this episode really signals the change between series 1 and 2, as there is a complete change in vibe between the two series. And as much as I love Eccleston's one standalone series, and I would consider it Christopher Eccleston's masterpiece, David Tennant's era is where I really fell in love with this show. And if I'm ever feeling down and looking for an episode to cheer me up, it's usually Tennant's era that I come running to. But as for the ranking of this episode, I'm going to put it in good. I wouldn't say it's a great episode. It's fun to watch at Christmas, and it is the first of our sort of light-hearted Christmas episodes. I wouldn't say it's any better than good, but it is a really, really solid episode. But guys, that is going to wrap up the video as we have reviewed and ranked every episode of Series 1 of Doctor Who. I really hope you have enjoyed my analysis of each episode, and if you have anything you disagree or agree with, or anything further to input, please do let me know down in the comments, as I will be replying to every single one of them. I've been working on this video for around 3 to 4 months now alongside some other projects, and it really has been the video I've worked hardest on in the whole time I've been creating content for YouTube. So I really do hope you have enjoyed. And if you want to see a similar video for series 2 of this show and beyond, or any other shows, please do let me know down in the comments, and I will happily work my arse off once again for that video, because David Tennant's reign is my absolute favourite of the show. But anyway, guys, it's been almost 2 hours. If you're still here at the end, you are an absolute saint. But I will stop nattering now, but I just want to say how much I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I appreciate you all so much. I'll catch you for another video very soon, guys. Take care and peace.